ויעש אלוקים בשני המאורות הגדולים, and Elohim made the two great luminaries, Hulin Pei Aleph Tes Daf Samach Amud Beis. Rabbos Berashit Parsha Vav, Ma'achar Shehu Koreh Osam Gedolim. After the Torah, after he calls it them great luminaries, who Chuzru Pogem Osan Chulu, he then right away goes and blemishes them. So, or it's a question: does he blemish them right away? But rather, because one entered the place of their friend, in the boundary of their friend, that's what happened. That the moon became small. In all the sacrifices, it says a chatas, a sin offering, b'rosh chodesh chulu. And on Rosh Chodesh it says chatas laHashem, that it's a chatas for Hashem. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Holy One, blessed be He, says, Hiviu alai kapara chulu, bring an atonement for me, because I made the moon small. Ube Yudmem my Shaykh Lagabi HaKadosh Baruch Hu kapara. We can ask, or the Yudmem asks, what kind of atonement can a Kadosh Baruch Hu have? We can say kapara ina al chit chas v'shalom, that the atonement isn't for sin, God forbid, kimal shem mimiut zeh nimshach yinikachul. But rather the concept is because from this making the moon smaller, it caused a nurturance to the negative. You need to fix it. And that's what it means, the concept of kapara here. Beis, Parshas Vayera, Parsha Nun Gimel, Daf Nun Tes Dalet, Al Pasuk Tzchok Asali Elokim, on the verse that by the birth of Yitzchak and naming him, that Sarah had a baby, she said that Elokim made for me a joy, a tzchok. Hosifa al hamaoros. So when she said this, she added to the luminaries. Ne'amar kanasiya. So it says here, action, asali, that he made for me, Elokim made for me. Ne'amar laholan vayas Elokim, B'shni hama'oros agdolim. And it also says there, by the two luminaries, that Elokim also made the two great luminaries. So both of these places it says Elokim and Asiya. Vayas Elokim and Asali Elokim. V'ayin sham b'matnas kahuna al derech ma shekasa b'Moshe. Look what it says in matnas kahuna, that this is similar to what it says by Moshe. Shenismale kol habayis orach ulu, that the whole house was filled with light. That, I guess, by a birth of a tzaddik, you can have this concept of more light. That the house was filled with light. So too, when Sarah said this, it was a concept of adding to the luminaries. And we can see that this is like what it's brought by the Alter Rebbe. In the Maamar Rishavti B'Shalom, Perish Tzchok, who had Tainug Elyon, that this idea of laughter or joy is a concept of supernal pleasure, Shenimshach v'niskale al yedei habirurim iskafya v'ishavcha, that are revealed through the purification process of bending and changing yourself. That's why it says Elokim did this, because this is through efforts and difficulties that you put yourself through in your avoda. The previous b'dibur maskil ani de parshas tzitzis. like it's brought in the Maamar about tzitzis shetzchok v'atainug nimshach mahahester v'hahelam d'shem Elokim, that the concept of this laughter and joy and pleasure comes from the hiding and the covering of the name Elokim, kishenase achakach bittul hayesh, when afterwards, after that covering, the existence that comes about through that becomes nullified. So that's a joy that it becomes bottle again to the yesh. That the yesh again becomes a bottle, even though it's in a hidden place. That the elokus is hidden. ובדיבור המסחיל שובה ישראל עד ראש השני פרק ד' וזהו לוויאסון זה יצרת לשחק בו. And this is the idea of the Livyasan, that you created it to rejoice in it and have and laugh with it. That's the concept of the Livyasan, the bittul hayesh of this world. V'hahester d'shem Elokim, and the hiding of the name Elokim, Ishlomar, we could say shezeu inyan echad im miut halavana, that's the same concept as the moon becoming smaller, shnismayet haor sheyihi hester v'helem, that the light became lesser, that there should be a hiding and a covering, v'achakach lagi habirur sheyihi hamshachas hatainog. So the moon becoming smaller is like the hester, like the hiding, and then through purification, and then through the purification we draw down the pleasure, the tzchok, hamaaros, that adds to the luminaries. That through changing the darkness of night to light, you shine then from the concept of the source of the darkness that he places himself, around him. He places darkness around himself. So sefes, or that you bring extra light from there, from the source of the darkness, and its purpose, that you brought the bittul even there. Gam kisarahi malchus, and further, with the comparison is that Sarah herself corresponds with Malchus, she Alavana, which is the moon. Therefore, her actions are like the concept of the action of the Vayas of the B'shnei HaMaoros. And further, because it says there that Elokim made, and also here it says the same thing, that Elokim made. If so, it's Bina and not Malchus. Or the Elokim that's making is the Bina, where Sarah herself is Malchus, or she draws down that level of Bina. But the action affects all the way up, that it can bring down all the way from Keser. Like it says in Zohar Vayera, that Hashem did to Sarah, that uses the name Havaya and uses Vayas, that Asiya can go all the way up, that Asali Elokim is Bina, but Vayas Havaya l'Sara, Hashem did to Sarah, is bringing all the way from Keser, because actions can affect even higher. That's like he says that it brings perhaps like the from the Yashas Choshech Sis. We can further say, Al pi mashakaz berabos vayirasham be'inyan mishte gadol. What does it say in Midrash Rabbah Vayira about the great feast On the day that Yitzchak was weaned, Yom Higam Elas Yitzchak, it says, Mishte Godel HaOlamim Hayasham. It was a great feast because the great one of the worlds was there. What's the great one of the worlds? That's the concept of the great luminary, the source of the light. Meaning to say, you're adding to the luminaries from the source, or the concept of the Ma'or, the Shnei HaMaoros. Gimel Amor Rish Parsha Lamed Aleph Al Pasuk V'Zid Kascha Chulu Asher Asisa Gedolos Chulu. On the verse, and your righteousness that you did great things, big things. Vu Inyan, and like it says, Vayas Elokim B'Shnei HaMaoros Agdolim Chulu. Like it says, that you made the two great luminaries. So the word Sha'asisa Gedolos that pasuk in Nach is hinting to the great luminaries. That you made great ones, the two great luminaries. Sha'asisa Gedolos HaMaoros HaGedolim. Vata Mitay V'Oren Shel Yisrael Chulu. When you desire the light of Israel. V'Oren Shel Yisrael. What's this concept of the light of Israel? Yishlomer, we can say, Nimshach Memashim Mahafchim Choshech L'Or. That light is when we flip darkness to light. That's the light of Israel. That's our light that we produce because through our efforts. And this comes about through lessening the moon. That from this comes out that the darkness covers the land. And then when you have darkness, when we flip the darkness to light, this is called then the light of Israel. This is what it says, that Yisrael, it says the light of Israel, that it will be the light of Israel. Bishlomar or Yisrael, and we can say the light of Israel, Zehu Or HaMeir B'Tiferes, that's the light that shines into the sphere of Tiferes, because Yisrael corresponds with Tiferes. So the light of Yisrael is the light into Tiferes, Kavim Tzoi, which is the middle pole, the middle strand, the middle line of the spheros, Shegadol Mishnei HaMaoros, which is greater than the two luminaries, Shem Chesed V'Vorachulu, because the two luminaries on their own can be a concept of kindness and strictness. And Or Yisrael, the light of Israel, is even higher. It's the light of Tiferes, Sheshur Shem Chachma Bina, that Chesed V'Vorah is rooted in Chachma Bina. V'Tiferes Ola Hada Keser, but Tiferes goes all the way up to Keser. Daled Yudrish Kuf at a Chalva. I'm not sure what Yudrish Kuf is. It's some kind of Sifar Erchen, Siman Aleph, Matikune Zohar, Tikun Mem Dalet Hacha Pekudu Lemebad Tzedakah. So it says in Tikun Zohar that you have a mitzvah to give charity. Es HaMaor HaGadol Raza Dasirin, the great luminary, that's the rich man. Look what it says in the Rai Mehemna Tisa, that the rich man should not give more. That refers to the middle pillar. Even though we just said that the big light and the small light were Chesed and Gvura are coming from Chachma and Bina, here the concept of the rich man is the middle pillar. And the small luminary is the secret of the poor man. So the rich man gives to the poor man, just like the sun gives to the moon. And in this way, Yoshua received from Moshe, look over there, and this is what it says, that the sun is charity, and there's healing in his wings. So the concept of that's what it says, that the sun is the one who gives charity. It's because that's the rich man. And with this you can understand that specifically through the moon becoming smaller, that's when you can give charity. Afterwards you'll get the greatness of the light. And just like by tzedakah, it says you have to give enough to fulfill what they're lacking. So too, it says the luminaries without the vavs. Or alavana, hinting to the moon becoming smaller. Mikabelas ma shemesh tzedakah, receiving from the sun, that the sun is charity. We can say that this was the complaint of the moon, that you can't have two kings, you can't have everybody be rich. You won't have the mitzvah of charity then. But on this we can answer that your charity is asisa gedolos, that you made great ones, in the plural. So that you could have charity with the two great luminaries. And how is that? That also the upper realms need charity one from the other. That the Eshirim, so to speak, could theoretically give to each other. And they need each other. If so, you could have had charity even if the moon had not become smaller. Or we could say, that hektish is different. It doesn't need charity, rather it needs blessing. So on a higher level, yes, you might not have tzedakah, but you have a different concept. You have the concept of bracha. So you could then similarly have there still the concept of the giver and the receiver, al derech bracha, like a blessing. That the giver gives a blessing to the receiver, like it says in Zohar, that the concept of the masculine is the giver of the blessing, and the concept of the feminine is the receiver of the blessing. But when we're talking about tzedakah, that's what happens through making the moon smaller. That's when you have truly a poor person. It needs to be looked into, because maybe that wasn't good enough. Maybe bracha wasn't good enough. Maybe you actually needed also the concept of tzedakah. Look what it says on the verse, a prayer to the poor person when they wrap themselves with the concept of how poverty is beautiful for Israel. That the purpose of creation of the poor people is in order so that there should be the son of charity. Another concept in this is the union of Zon Nukva Shem HaMemutzayim Ben Or In Sof Libiyah, that they are a, so to speak, step in between the infinite light and the lower worlds of B'Yit Sir Siyah. You have to have this union to reveal the light downwards. Mevur B'Bir Al Pasuk Amagid Mereshis Achris. It's explained on the verse that he says from the beginning to the end, Binyan Sherak Suso Veonasa, and it's connected to the concept that you cannot abandon her from her needs of clothing, of sustenance, clothing, and intimacy. And you have to look over there to see exactly how that translates to the Yichud Zun being the memutza between Ein Sof and Biyah. And again, he brings the Sefer Yerek, Sivav Erech Shemesh, the concept of the sun. Siman Aleph, Barasa Olamecha Bebeis Chulu, that you created your world with Beis. Shnei Olamos, that refers to two worlds. This world is small, and the world to come is great. So just like you have a great luminary and a small luminary, so too you have this world as a small luminary, and the world to come is a great luminary. But also Shemesh Ve'yareach, you created the sun and the moon. And therefore, one has to be greater than its friend. That it's in your mind that I'll make you greater and I'll make the other one smaller. Rather, go and make yourself smaller. 1/60th of the light of the sun. And then it says that I'm going to, in the future, make you great, to return you to the light of the sun. But what about the light of the sun? What's going to be for it? And the light of the sun will be 7 times. B'Shem Konen. And that's in the name of the Medrash Konen. Konan. Yishlomo, we could say about this al derech mashikaz v'likutei Torah b'shir hashirim, similar to what it's brought in Likutei Torah shir hashirim. Sof tibur hamaskil kol dodi binyan me'ein olam haba chulu, about the concept of that it's like something like the world to come. Shabbos, perhaps. That what's going to be, what's like the world to come. Because then the woman of valor is the crown of her husband. That Sarah was greater as a prophetess than Avraham. And perhaps he's hinting also to what he said before about Sarah being the moon and by Asali Elohim and so forth. But here we're saying that Sarah, the moon, becomes greater than Avraham would be, which would be the sun, I guess. That's why it says the moon and the world to come is greater than this world. If so, she's going to be the crown of her husband and greater than him. So here it would seem to imply that the moon is going to be greater than the sun in the time to come. We can awaken to, we can hint, you can, if you'll notice, by the story of, Elisha Navi, that there was the great woman over there, the Shunamis or whatever. Shalom al Shem Hagdolah Leah. So Isha Gedola is the great woman. If the woman is the concept of the moon, so the great woman is when the moon is renewed and is the crown of her husband, and is like the world to come, and she becomes like the great luminary. Or we can say Hashem He Gedola Leah, that the older one, the greater one was Leah, but it's the Zohar is Doresh. It's the He Gedola, the big He, the Hainu He Ilah, the Shem Havaya, that is the higher He of Shem Havaya. Vaim berabus vayetze Gedola b'mas nusei. I'm not sure what that is. Nosea. She's greater than her in her gifts. Oh, Mustama, because she had more sons, and therefore they gave more gifts to the Mishkan and its building. Vaim betu Torah or medibur hamaschil v'yigashi elav Yehuda. Ubechayrish pashas achre gedola kolomer chashuva. And Bechai says, what does it mean that she was greater? That is to say, she was more important. The word gedola can be, and the same thing, it's mistama, Bechai is talking about Isha gedola, the great woman. Doesn't mean she was large, it means she was important. Gadol Havaya, great is Havaya. It also says Gadol B'Havaya. Maybe like Ha-Gedolah, the He-Gedolah is also referring to the Havaya. Ach v'legdolah so keser. When we say Gdolah so in cheker, Gadol Havaya m'hula mod. Gdolah so in cheker. So what's the difference between Gadol Havaya and Gdolah so? So the Gdolah so refers to keser, which is higher than the regular Gadol. Al derech the big shalvana shimshuch ba min bechinas v'legdolah so. And similarly, the moon was asking not that they should be the same, that it should become smaller, but rather that it should become greater. That it should be not just the regular Gadol, but the Gedolah so from Keser. Zayin Zor Chilek Aleph Amud Kuf Nun Beis Tzedi Es Shnei HaMaoros HaGadolim. So in Zohar Chilek Aleph, it mentions the two great luminaries. It says that Tzedi, the Nekuda Tzedi, the two dots, is the two great luminaries. Look, or Perek Dalet, look what it says about this in Pardes, about the Nekudos, that the Tzedi is the two great luminaries. V'hu b'tikun Zohar b'aktama davav sof amar aleph dav zayin. Ein Rish Beis Erev. Truma kuf lamed ches sof amar beis kuf mem zayin sof amar beis v'ayin sham. Look over there in the Zohar. Truma that also touches on this. Yishlomar shehayu al derech trein rein. We can say that they're like two friends, the two luminaries. Perhaps, like he says, that the Chesed and Gvura that come from Chacham and Bina are called the two friends. And here we're saying that it's like the Tzedi. Hey, Aleph al derech emasra gadol havaya keshehu be'ir Elokeinu. Parshas Pekudei, it says, when is he great? When is Havaya great? When he's in the city of Elokeinu. So I guess that's two together, the Havaya and the Elokeinu. That's the concept of Gadol. Havaya and Elokeinu. V'zeu es shnei hama'oros ha'gedolim, and that's the two great luminaries. Look what it says about the idea of Gedilim Tasa. You should make the tzitzis are called Gedilim, big ones, great ones. So that's also a plural of Gadol. That the tzitzis are this concept as well, somehow. Ches Shala Daf Tezayin Suf Amud Aleph Pirush Al Derech Davar Gadol Ma'aseh Merkava V'Davar Katan Havayos Tabaya V'Rava. Shala, it says that a great thing is the Ma'aseh Merkava, and a small thing are the discussions of Havaya and Rava. So there you also have a concept of Gadol. Similarly, the great luminary refers to the inner concepts of the Torah, which is also the written Torah. So too, the small luminary is the oral Torah of Havayos Havayos the Havayos. But in their source, both the written and the oral Torah are both the two great luminaries. Look what it says about the concept that you should make for them tzitzis. We can say according to this, that the great luminary, the written Torah, lo yada enosh erka, man doesn't know its greatness. So the luminary, the moon, which is the Torah Shebal Peh, said you can't have two kings using one crown for Kavanas. And so the intention of the Torah Shebal Peh, being the moon in this context, is that it should shine. That you should shine into it the inner concept of the Torah that's higher than the written Torah. Hainu Atika Kadisha, which is like the concept of Keser of Atika Kadisha. Like it brought before, that's what the moon really wanted. It was not to become lesser, but to become greater. Upanai lo yirau, but you cannot see my countenance, and therefore it said Lichiu Maiti, go and make yourself smaller. Shiti Slabish, Beitzadas, to be clothed in the tree of knowledge, Levararo, to purify it. That is the small thing. The birur of the Torah Shebal Peh is the concept of the Eitzadas Tovira. So again, here it implies that the Eitz Chaim and the Eitzadas is also the concept of the great luminary and the small luminary. So it says in Zohar Shoftim that the great luminary is Tiferes, Hakata and Yesod, and the small one is Yesod. There's another way of explaining it. Shnikra Hadal, it's called the impoverished one. Yesod is impoverished in comparison to Tiferes. B'rai mehem narish pashatisa ayin lamid uz dalid. Tikun Zayin Mem Tov Tes Zayin Suf Amud Aleph Shala Parshas Re'ei Davshin Ayin Hei Beis Eshnei Oros Gadolim. So it says there in Mistam and Shala that these two great luminaries, Zehu Inyan Talmud Gadol Ma'aseh Gadol, it's the concept of Torah study is great and action is great. Echinu B'Sefer Asar HaMemoros Chelik Daled Perek Vav. So too it says in Asar HaMemoros from the Ramah Mipano, Daf Ayin Aleph, Suf Amud Aleph.